Okay, here we go. We are on 54b. Oh, right. We just started at the top, the opinions of Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva. We're in the middle of talking about someone who has relations with another male, and there's two prohibitions: what we call the shochev, the one who's active, and the nishkav, the one who's passive. And very important for the duration of this Amud is to get the opinions down. So Rabbi Shmuel is one who says that everyone agrees that the one who's active, there's a prohibition that as zachar lo yisishkav, that you're not allowed to have relations with another male. That's clear. The question was, what about the one who's passive? What's his prohibition? That is two opinions. Either it's another pasuk called Lo Yeh Kadesh. That was the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel. Or Rabbi Akiva says no. From the same verse, you learn out the shochev, one who's the active one, you learn out the one who's passive also. That's going to come in handy later on. Now we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 lines down. The last word is behema. So we know that if you have relations with the behema, so you also get killed. So behema minalam. And it's going to be the same two opinions, basically, that we just had by Mishkav Zachar, by having relations with another male, are going to play themselves out by a behema. So let's see. Behema minalam to the Tanur about an ish pratlakat. You have to be a 13-year-old as opposed to a child. If he has relations, then he's going to be chayav. Asher yitin shechvaso bebehema, one who lies with the behema. Being whether the animal is a bigger one or a small one doesn't matter. Interesting why I have to specify that. Okay. Most yumas b'skila, you get killed by getting stoned. Says the Gemara, atam b'skila in el. You tell me skila, maybe it's only one of the other capital punishments. We have another verse later on, I think by Masis, maybe one who convinced people to go to do avodah zarah. It says the word tahargenu, says the word taharogu over here, tahargenu over there. Just like there is skila, so to here is skila. Fine. Now, what we need, lamadnu onesh. That's the punishment. You get skila. Fine. We know that every punishment has to have also a warning, not just a punishment. That's called an azhara. Lamadnu onesh, a shochev. Also, before that for a second, we learned the punishment for the one who is the shochev, the one who goes actively and lies with the animal. The nishkav, how do you know the person who's passive, who brings the animal upon himself, that he also gets killed? Talmud lomar, kol shochev in behema mosumas. Anybody who lies with the animal will surely be killed. Now, what's that talking about? If it's talking about the guy who's active, so then we already know that from the other verse. In inyan l'shochev, today inyan l'nishkav must be that since it's repetitive, it can't be referring to the guy who's active. Must be the guy who brings the animal upon himself, so he gets surely killed also. Now, we learned the punishment bein l'shochev, bein l'nishkav, that we just said they both get killed. As haraminayin, how do you know that there's a warning for them not to do this? Where's that from? Talmud lomar ubechol behema lo sitin shechvascha l'tameh. So in any animal, lo sitin shechvascha, you can't go and lie with the animal. That's not allowed. That is like many other things in vayikra yirches. Vayikra yirches are the warnings, and the vayikra chaf are the punishments. So that's all good. Lamadnu azhara l'shochev. That's all good for the one who's proactive. L'nishkav, the one who's passive, minayin. How do you know that he is not allowed to be passive with the animal? So here's going to be a machlokas, same as before. Talmud lomar lo yeh kadesh b'nei Yisrael says you can't be kadesh, something to do with some level of inappropriate relations with something else, somebody else. The omer v'gam kadesh ba'aretz, and we had this earlier, and it's another verse in Malachim tells you the word kadesh, and in that same verse is the word to'eva. So therefore, we learn out that just like it's something inappropriate, so too, and the Gemara assumes now it's referring to having relations with an animal. so too the lo kaddish in our verse is referring to having relations with an animal. That's divrei Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Akiva Omer Eino Tzarech. No, you don't need that. You don't have to go to somewhere else to find the prohibition for the one who is more passive. Rather, Harehu Omer Lo Sitein Shechvascha. You can read it Lo Sitein Shechivasecha. That means that you can't not only proactively lie with the animal, you can't even passively lie with the animal either. So once again, in both these cases, Rabbi Shmuel learns. Interesting how you can learn out from one pasuk lo kaddish, these two separate prohibitions. That's interesting. But in both these cases, Rabbi Shmuel is one who learns lo kaddish to refer to the passive one, whether it's with another male or whether it's with an animal. While Rabbi Akiva stays local, and he says you can learn out the passive prohibition both by a male and both by an animal from the parsha itself. You don't have to go somewhere else. Okay. Why does that make a difference? For the next line. Haba ala zachar, so a person who goes and has relations with another male, or a hevi alav zachar, brings a male upon himself. Amar Rabbi Abo. Rabbi Abo says, okay, according to Rabbi Shmuel, who has one verse for the one who's active and one verse for the one who's passive, but that verse is from another pasuk. Lo yakadesh yechayiv shtayim. Chad melo yisishkav v'chad melo yakadesh. You have one prohibition that you can't actively lie with somebody else, and you also have the other verse of Lo Yakadesh. That's all good for Rabbi Shmuel, according to Rabbi Abo. The Divrei Rabbi Kiva and Chayv Achas Lo Yisishkav Chadi. He only has that one verse. Lo Yisishkav. So we're only going to be over one. So now Haba ala behema, or a same case with an animal. Either you proactively have relations with an animal, or hevi behema alav, or you bring the animal upon yourself. Amar Rabbi Abo, Rabbi Shmuel chayiv shtayim. Rabbi Abo says according to Rabbi Shmuel, you're chayiv two. One from the parsha itself, you can't lie with an animal, and the other one from lo yakadesh, which teaches you that you can't be passive with an animal. The diver, that's all Rabbi Shmuel, according to Rabbi Abo. The diver Rabbi Akiva eno chayiv ala achas shechvascha v'shchivasecha chadi. That word shechvascha and shchivasecha, which he interprets to mean you can't be passive with the animal, that's all the same prohibition of lo sitein, and you're only going to be chayiv one. Now that was all Rabbi Abahu, according to Rabbi Shmuel, said you're chayiv two. Abai Omar afilu l'diver Rabbi Shmuel nami eno chayiv ela achas. Abai says even according to Rabbi Shmuel that has this lo yakadesh, doesn't matter. He still holds your chayiv one. Why? When it says lo yakadesh, that's begav riksiv. That's written by people, not by animals. So by people you'll be chayiv too, but by an animal, lo yakadesh is not going to apply because lo yakadesh is talking about humans. So according to Abaye, according to Bishmol, how do I know the prohibition for passively lying with an animal? El Rabbi Shmuel asar lenishkav minole. How do I know that? From where do I know that? I don't have lo yakadesh anymore. From the verse that anybody who lies with the animal should surely be killed. Now, it says someone who's proactive, shochev, he's actively lying with the animal. But we know already you can't do that. So, in Eino Inyan l'shochev, if it's not referring to the active one, then Tineu Inyan l'nishka. So excited. So, Tineu Inyan l'nishka. It must be referring to the one who is passive. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, the Afki Rachmana l'nishka. So now, according to this, the Torah teaches you the prohibition of the one who's passively lies with the animal in a active language. It doesn't say nishkav, it says shochev in a proactive language. The Afki Rachmana l'nishkav b'lashon shochev to teach you what? Ma shochev anash. Just like shochev is, he gets surely killed. Viz here, and the Torah prohibits him, Torah warns him to not do that. Af nishkav anash, that's this pasuk, most humas, one who's nishkav, who's passive, he gets killed. And we learn out viz here, and he must be also warned. So that is Abaye, according to Rabbi Shmuel, by being passive with animals, he learns he compares, since he learned the punishment from Im Shochev Mosumas for someone who's passive, he compares the passive to the active, and therefore they both have a prohibition and they both have a punishment. Okay. Now, Hanir ba lezacher, v'hanir ba lebehema. So one who is right, one who's passive, one who's sodomized. Either one is passive with another male or with an animal. Amar Rabbi Abou. So now, Ladim Rabbi Akiva chayiv shtayim. According to Rabbi Akiva, you're chayiv two. Chad milo sishka, v'chad milo sitan shefascha. One for the male and one for the animal. Ladim Rabbi Shmuel eno chayiv alachas. You're only chayiv one. Both passive ones, according to Rabbi Abou, according to Rabbi Shmuel, are all from the pasuk lo yeh kadesh. If you do both of these in one, back to back, so you're only going to be chayiv one. Abaye says, no, Abaye argues in Rabbi Abou when he says, by an animal, the lo yeh kadesh is not available. That's what I'm talking about by males. So Abaye Amar afilu de Rabbi Shmuel, nami chayiv shtayim. You'd be chayiv two. What are the two? The chsiv called shochav and behema mos yumas. So it says by a person who's actively lying with another male, with another animal, that you're going to be killed. Now we know that already from another verse. So it must be referring to someone who's passive. Why does it teach you the one who's passive in active language? It's talking about the passive, the nishkav, and it says shochev. Must be to compare the two. What's the comparison? We just said this. Just like the shochev, the active one, where the animal gets warned and gets killed, so to the passive one, it's compared to him, he will get warned and get killed. However, aval habal zacher, the heavy zacher love, one who is proactive with another male, or is passive, the heavy zacher, he brings the male upon himself. So, that's two. Habal behema, heavy behema love. So you do these four things in back to back to back to back. You are active with the zacher, with another male, and then you're passive. You're active with an animal, and then you're passive. So now, bein the Rabbi Abou, bein the Abaye, according to Rabbi Abou and according to Abaye, live Rabbi Shmuel chayiv shalosh. According to Rabbi Shmuel, you're going to be chayiv three of them. You're going to be chayiv because you're active with a male. You're going to be chayiv because you're active with an animal, two separate prohibitions, and you're passive. Since you're passive, that's going to be a third prohibition. The Rabbi Akiva chayiv shtayim. According to Rabbi Akiva, you just chayiv two, not three. Okay. Catch your breath and continue. Taner Rabbanan says the Brisa. Okay, so now getting more involved in the details of how old you have to be liable, or to let's see. Taner Rabbanan, the Brisa says Zacher lo also b'katan k'gadol, a cryptic Brisa that when it comes to having relations with another male, we did not make a young child the same as an adult. However, behema asubo kana kigdola. By an animal, we made a young girl like an older girl. What does that mean? Ma'ilo asubo katan kigadol. What does it mean we didn't make a young boy like an adult? So, two opinions. Amar Rav, lo asu bias pachos mi ben teisha shanim ke ben teisha shanim. We did not make the under 9-year-old who has relations the same as the over 9-year-old who has relations. Meaning that in halacha, at least according to Rav, 9-year-old is the minimal age to consider his relations as relations. Less than that, it's not halacha considered having relations. So says Rav that just like a boy who's under 9 who has relations with another male or with anybody, it doesn't count as having relations. The age of maturity is 9 years old. So too, if a male who's over bar mitzvah has relations with a less than 9-year-old, he's also not going to have the same ramifications as if he would have relations with a over 9-year-old. So now, meaning, so you have an adult who has relations with another male child. What age is he liable for mishkav zachar in the Torah? So we're saying now it has to be that the object that the person he's having relations with is over 9 years old, not less than 9 years old, because we made a 9-year-old the same, just like a 9-year-old who, if he's less than 9, his relations are not considered relations. So too, if he's the recipient of the relations, he's passive. So too, that's not considered relations either. That's the opinion of Rav. Shmuel says no. Lo asa bias pachim shalosh kiben shalosh. Shmuel says that the age is really 3. The age is 3, and therefore a less than 3-year-old by a girl is not considered relations. So to here, we're not going to consider if someone has relations with less than a 3-year-old boy, that's not going to be considered relations. But more than a 3-year-old, it will be. So Machlok is Rav and Shmuel. What's the age? 9 or 3 for a boy? So let's see what they're arguing about. Shmuel, the Micah Miflagi, what are they arguing about? Rav Savar called the Isay. I jumped the gun a little bit. Sorry. Rav Savar called the Isay b'shochev, Isay b'nishcha. Whatever applies to an active person who's going to have relations, the same will apply to the one who's passive. And just like a 9-year-old, the called the Isay b'shochev, the Isay b'nishcha. And just like a 9-year-old boy, his relations under 9 are nothing. So to over 9, so to under 9, if he's the recipient, that's also going to be not the same, and therefore that adult will get, not punished the same. What is this punishment? I'm not exactly sure, but it won't be the same as having a regular relations with another adult male or another male over 9. You hope so? Yeah. You hope so? I've been thinking about this, by the way. A Jewish life is like the worst thing, right? Jewish life. You do anything to save a Jewish life, right? So you kill another person with all the warnings and whatever, you get the lowest form of punishment, strangulation. You go and tie a double knot on Shabbos, or you take the icky parts out of your salad with witnesses, you get the worst punishment, steal. Amazing thing. No, like the way Hashem views Shabbos, amazing thing. You don't have salad, that's right. So yeah, we'll get you on something. So that's right. Shmuel says, Savar Mishkeve Ishaksim. So in the pasuk, talking about having relations with the male, but you are right. Every parsha is unique. In this parsha of having relations with the male, it has the word toeva. It's like a serious abomination. It's a real, it doesn't say toeva by everything. Right, you're saying, but you hope that they get,
with the child.
We assume we would separate them from society, Yeah. No, the perpetrator won't be liable in some way if the kid's under 9 or 3. Now, what does he yag at? I don't know. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'll have to deal with Jared. I don't know. It's not so good.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Not liable.
He's not liable. I said he's not in the same way. I don't know what he's liable for. I stayed safe. I don't know exactly what his punishment is. But remember, Bezdin's always allowed to punish when they see things, they can kill people for things that are totally not liable to death penalty. They feel the person is a total, destruction to society. Okay, so Shmuel says in the section of the Torah that deals with having relations with another male, it says the word mishkevei isha, the lyings of a woman. So what's that doing there? So Shmuel learns, just like by an isha less than 3 years old is not considered relations, so too by a male, he has to be at least 3 years old. So as long as the recipient is over 3, then the person will get killed the same way he has relations with anybody. So either the minimal age is 9 or 3. Now, Tanya Kavase the Rav that the minimal age is 9 years old. Zachar ben Tesha Shana B'Yom Echad Haba Ala Behema. You have a 9-year-old and one day who has relations with a animal. Bain Kedarka, Bain Shalo Kedarka. Whether it's in the natural way, or these artful words, or the unnatural way. Okay. A woman who brings the animal upon herself, Bain Kedarka, Bain Shalo Kedarka Chayiv. You're obligated, you're chayiv. Just like by a person, we say you're chayiv for natural and unnatural relations, so too by an animal. What do you see from the Brisa? The minimal age is 9. 9 years old. Darish Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda be'isha shnei mishkavos. Ubebehema mishkav echad. So it's a little bit interesting that by a woman, it sounds like she's liable for both natural and unnatural. It says mishkaveh. Mishkaveh implies multiple ones. But a behema, it's only if you have relations in the natural way. In the unnatural way, it doesn't say mishkaveh. Yeah. So now, on that, we're going to ask the question that an animal, and a lady who has relations with an animal, she's only obligated if it's in the natural way, not in the unnatural way. Muscular papa adarabo says the opposite. Isha de orchahi. In Isha, this line is hard. I think. Yeah. Isha de orchahi. So an Isha who, I don't know what this means exactly, but she generally gets a whole focus over here. Yeah. An Isha de orchahi, an Isha who the general, it's more normal for her to have relations. A mishkav mechayiv, a midamachrini lo mechayiv. It only makes sense. It's more normal for her to have relations. Sounds like with an animal, it's only liable if you do it naturally, not unnaturally. But behema, bilav orchahi, an animal. So it's so unnatural to have relations with the animal, or for the animal to have relations with a person. Behema bilav orchahi lechayiv aleh al kol nekav v'nekav. And every relation with the animal, you're going to be chayiv for, whether it's natural or unnatural. So Rav Papa argues on Rav Nachman that argues on Rav Nachman about the idea that if you have relations with the animal in an unnatural way, are you going to be liable or not? Rav Papa says yes, and Rav Nachman says no. Fine. Tanya says another brisa. Zachar ben Teisha B'yom Echad Haba'al Behema, a 9-year-old boy, at least 9 on one day. Haba'al Behema, Bein Kedarka, Bein Shelo Kedarka, whether he has relations with the animal naturally or unnaturally. Va'isha Hamevias Behema Aleha, or a woman who brings animal upon herself, Bein Kedarka, Bein Shelo Kedarka Chayev. You see in this brisa, whether you're a male or a female, any form of cohabitation with an animal, whether it's a natural way or the unnatural way, you are going to be obligated. Okay. What if you're a male? I guess. That was fun today. Okay. Here gets less and less PG as we go. Amar le Ravina l'Rava. Amar le Ravina l'Rava. So when it comes to relations, there's 2 steps. There's I don't know the way to say it, but there's a full insertion, full relations, and there's partial. And when it comes to other areas, the Torah specifically tells us at the end of Parshas, either Kedoshim or Cheremos, that even one who has partial relations has two opinions what exactly partial relations means, but not the full, not going all the way, but some kind of at least partially. So there, the Gemara tells us that ha'ara, this is called ha'ara. It's a semi-insertion, is the same as a gemar bia, as the full relation. And that the Gemara learns out at the end of all the parshas of the arayas, of all the illicit relations in Kedoshim and Vayikra Chaf, it compares all of them to a nida, and just like a nida you're chayiv for even having partial relations, so too for everyone that you're not allowed to have relations with, you also are chayiv not only for the full thing, but even for partially. So now, what about a male with another male? Hama'are bezacher. Partial relations with another male, mahu. So says the Gemara, Hama'are bezacher, says mishkavei ishak sebe. Whatever it says once again in the parsha of having relations with another man, it says these words mishkavei isha. seems to allude to something regarding relations with a woman. So he responds, just like a woman, you're chayav for only partial relations, so too by a male. Ella, the question was like this: partial relations with an animal. What's the halacha? So Amrlei, this is a very interesting way to come to this halacha. Amrlei, it says ha'ara, partial relations, by one of the illicit relations. Now that's unnecessary because all of the illicit relations are compared to a nida at the end of the parsha. So why did it specify illicit relations by one of those cases? Not for itself, rather to teach you about an animal. Let's see. It says ha'ara, partial relations is prohibited. Where does it say that? It says it by a father sister or a mother sister. But you don't need that. They're all compared to having partial relations with the nida. So what must it be? It must be to teach you that ha'ara by a behema, that even that you're going to be liable for. Says the Gemara, Michti behema mechayv mitzvahs bezdin. A behema, if you have relations with the behema, capital punishment. So lama li dechsiv laha'ara dida gabe chayve krisas. Why did the Torah write ha'ara by chayve krisas, by things that are liable for kares? Lichteve gabe chayv mitzvahs bezdin. Write it by chayv mitzvahs bezdin, by parsha of capital punishment, and then ligmar chayv mitzvahs bezdin. And then you can learn it from chayv mitzvahs bezdin. Meaning, why did you teach it by krisas? Says the Gemara, whole v'kulei kral drasha hu da'asi ksivanami milsa de drasha. Since that whole verse by the parsha of krisas was all extra anyways, and it was all open for interpretation, so we taught this halacha that was also, we taught this halacha there also. Since that whole pasuk was open for interpretation, it was all extra. So therefore, Rashi brings from the Gemara Yavamas, tells you why. Therefore, we taught this halacha there also. Okay. More graphic. I don't really understand the next line. If you have partial relations with yourself, what's the halacha? So Amar Lei, he told him back. Rav Sheshes told him back. Kabastan, some kind of word of like you very much pained me. You caused me a lot of pain because you asked me a question that's impossible. There's no reality to it. So that's why it pains me a lot, because I don't know how to answer your question. Amar of Ashi, Mighty Bailach. I don't, yeah. If you help me explain the next line, I'll be very grateful. It says, Mighty Bailach, Bekoshi, Lo Mishkachasla. When that part of a person is basically alive, so it's impossible. Meaning, I guess it doesn't bend as much. Ki Mishkachasla b'meshamish mace. When it's dead. I don't know. No. What? No. Plastic. Okay. Then it's easier. I just don't understand lengthwise. I don't know. Whatever. Won't get too graphic. Fine. So, but okay, that's what it says. It says that if it's what was the word used? Flaccid. So then it's going to be, it's called meshamish v'meis when it's dead, so to speak, not active. So therefore, apparently there is such a case that you could have relations, you could have at least somewhat of an insertion with yourself. So now, now in general, if you have relations with someone you're not supposed to, while it's inactive, then you're putter. You're not obligated the same way as if it is yeah, exactly. So so to hear you'll be putter. So that's two opinions. So whatever is going to apply by I'm texting your friends about this. So whatever's going to apply by that was going to apply by general illicit relations. So there it's a machlokas if meshamish b'meis. If one has relations when it's totally not erect, totally inactive, are you liable or not? The same thing would apply over here. So now, how many are you chayiv? Ulamandam chayiv, acha mechayiv tarti. You're going to be chayiv two, one for being active and one for being passive with yourself. Yeah. So mechayiv ashoki, but mechayiv anishma. Oh. The witness have to warn you.
Yeah.
And you have to say, I'm doing it anyways. Yeah. Okay. Fine. That ends the most graphic part of today. Bo minamer of Sheshes. They asked of Sheshes. So now we know in our Mishnah, we said the animal that you have relations with gets killed. It gets killed for one of two reasons. The first reason is called takala. It was the thing that brought about your downfall. That's called takala, a downfall. Another reason was it was the thing that embarrassed you. It's going to walk around. You're going to say, oh, that's the one that he got stoned from. So that's called kolon. That's called embarrassment. One's called takala, a downfall, and one's called kolon, an embarrassment. So, bo minei merav sheishes. They asked of sheishes, a guy, ovid kochav mananju, habal behema mahu. If he has relations with an animal, mahu. What's the animal? Takala, vik kolon, be'inan. Do you need to have both a downfall and a disgrace? And here, what do you have? Hacha takala ika. You have a downfall because we're going to kill the non-Jew for having relations with an animal. However, the embarrassment factor is not there. Now, Rashi says, interestingly enough, why is there no embarrassment? Says Rashi, Darkan bekach ve'ein mizbaishin. It wasn't so uncommon for the non-Jews to have relations with animals, and therefore they're not so embarrassed by it. Okay? By a Jew, very embarrassing. So therefore, there's not as much of an embarrassment by a non-Jew as there is by a Jew. So the question is, do you need to have both a downfall and an embarrassment to kill the animal, or one is enough? So how are we going to answer this? Amar of Sheshes, look at a tree. Oh, 2 shots coming up, perfect. Amar of Sheshes, what happens to a tree? A tree that you worship, if you worship the tree, it's called an Asherah tree. Right? I heard the summer stories of people buying houses, and the previous owners, would worship their tree, some form. So, what kind of worship were they doing? And is that avodah zarah? And does that give a tree the status of an Asherah? And do you have to cut it down? Yeah. My friend this summer told me that it happened in somewhere in New Jersey, recently, the last 20 years, that they bought something from some summit. Yeah, could be certain Indians. I don't know. Certain they worship their tree. So, what kind of worship was it? Is it chayv? Is it an Asherah tree? You have to chop it down, right? It even happens now. Yeah. Okay. So says the Gemara, what happens by an Asherah? Ma ilanos she'ein ochlin. Believe it or not, the trees cannot eat and they cannot drink. The ein merichin, they don't smell. And yet, Amra Torah, the Torah says, Yishachis sarif v'kala, destroy it, burn it, demolish it, if it's a avodah zarah tree. So, hoil ubala adam tekala al yada. Since why are you destroying the Asherah tree? Why are you destroying it? Since it brought about the person's downfall. The person worshipped it and got killed. So therefore, you would kill it. You would destroy it. Sorry. So hamates chavero. Very interesting language. One who convinces his friend, who goes off midarke chayim midarke misa halachas kama v'kama. So for sure, when it comes to an animal, the animal took the person from life to death. For sure, you should destroy it. So and by the tree, there's no embarrassment. You don't have relations with the tree. There's only the fact that it brought about your downfall. So since the tree only brought about your downfall, there's no embarrassment, and yet we destroy the tree. So for sure, the animal, as long as all you have is a downfall, you don't also need to have the embarrassment factor. You should destroy that animal, and therefore a non-Jew who has relations with the animal, you should kill the animal. So now, if this is true, Elamayata, according to this logic, Obed Kolchavim, a non-Jew, who bows down to an animal, so Titzar Umiktala, we should then prohibit the animal and then kill the and kill the animal. Just like when you worship a Asherah tree, when you worship a tree, it becomes an Asherah tree, and you destroy it. The same thing should be by the animal. And the Asherah animal, exactly, because he's going to get killed for doing avodah zarah. So you should now the animal should be prohibited to a Jew, and then you should kill the animal just like in Asherah. Says the Gemara, yeah, one problem though. Mika midi dili Yisrael lo aser ulo obed kochavim aser. The problem is a Jew who bows down to an animal does not make the animal prohibited. Rashi brings from a Gemara in Tmura that when you bow down to an animal and worship it, that is not going to be prohibited. So you cannot prohibit something by a non-Jew if it's not prohibited by a Jew. A non-Jew can't be more strict than a Jew. So therefore, just like by a Jew, if he bows down to an animal, it's not going to be prohibited. So to the non-Jew who bows down to the animal, it also is not going to be prohibited. Says the Gemara, okay, but why not? Maybe by a Jew, yeah. Yisrael gufe litzer. Why don't you make this animal prohibited, just like the animal that you have relations with? So, yeah, just like an animal you have relations with, it's prohibited and we kill it. So maybe the same should be true by an animal that you bow down to. Amar Abaye, zek klono maruba, v'zek klono muat. The levels of embarrassment are very different when you have relations with the animal, a much greater embarrassment than if you bow down to the animal. That's a lower level of embarrassment. It says the Gemara Bahare ilanos, the ain klonon maruba. So trees, their embarrassment's not so great, and yet the Amar Torah he shachis sarvakila. You got to destroy it, burn it, or demolish it. So, and there, even though it's very little embarrassment, so we said no. So we rephrase Abaye. When Abaye said that there's a lot of embarrassment, he was only talking to the Balei Chaim Kamrina, only by animals. It wasn't about in general anything which has a lot of embarrassment. You destroy, and anything which has little embarrassment you don't destroy. He was just talking about in the realm of animals, bowing down to an animal versus having relations with an animal. In the world of animals, the Chas Rachmana Alayu, Hashem had mercy on the animal that you bowed down to. Since it's very little embarrassment for you, less embarrassment. Hashem had mercy on the animals and didn't kill them, as opposed to having relations with the animal is a tremendous embarrassment for you. So then, when it comes to controversial part, a person's embarrassment or the animal, we kill the animal to save the person from embarrassment. Even though the person did a terrible thing, we still save the person from embarrassment. Rava Amar Amra Torah Behema Nahanis Me'aveira Tehari. An animal benefits from the Aveira. Such an animal you have to kill. Says the Gemara, and therefore by a non-Jew has relations with an animal, you would kill the animal. So for a different reason, not because of embarrassment, because since the animal got some level of pleasure from the Aveira, it has to be destroyed. Okay. Ilanos, the trees, they got no benefit from when you bow down to them, and yet the Amar Torah Hishaka Sarvakila, you have to destroy, burn, and demolish the tree. No. Rava was only talking about animals, bowing down versus having relations, not by in general things that don't benefit from your Aveiras. Do you not destroy? This is specifically by animals. The Balei Chaim Ka'amrinan, the Chas Rachmana Alayu, when you bow down to the animal. So, since the animal didn't benefit from your Aveira, Hashem had Rachmanas on the animal and did not kill it, as opposed to when you had relations with the animal. So then Hashem does kill it. Yeah. Okay. Tashma. So we learned in our Brisa, in our Mishnah, two reasons of why you would kill the animal. Either because it brought your downfall, or because it's an embarrassment for you. So that davar acher in the Mishnah that said another reason why you kill the animal is because of the embarrassment. Davar acher shel tehevehema averes b'shuk. The animal shouldn't be Betty the cow, shouldn't be walking around the shuk, the marketplace. Everyone's going to say, "Oh, this the animal that that guy is going to be stoned from." Meaning whenever you see this animal, you think of that guy, right? You have similar halachas by, not reminding people of their past. If you pass by that store, or, like certain songs, a person, whatever, can remind him of things he doesn't want to be reminded of. So why don't you be very careful, not remind him of things that are embarrassing for him. So this is just the extreme example of that. So Zui Sheniskal Ploni Ayada. So now that was the second reason in the Mishnah of why we kill the animal. Mai Lav Midiseifa has a Takala Vikalon. Look at the Seifa. It has embarrassment because they're going to see the animal and think of you. And it's because it also has the downfall. The animal brought down your downfall. So the second reason the Mishnah has both Takala Vikalon. Sounds like the first reason the Mishnah Reisha is just the color below column, is just your downfall without any embarrassment. And yet, that was a substantial reason why we killed the animal. So too, back to a non-Jew, so too by a non-Jew, when you have relations, a non-Jew has relations with the animal, as long as it brought upon your downfalls, then we will kill the animal. So now, says the Gemara, Behechi Dami, what's the case of a downfall that has no embarrassment? What's that case? Every time a Jew has relations with an animal, you're always going to have both. It's going to be the one that reminds you of that guy, and it's going to be the one that brought about your downfall. So if the second part of the mission is telling you a downfall and your embarrassment, the ratio is talking only about your downfall and not your embarrassment. What's that case? Must be the it must be referring to a non-Jew that has relations with an animal. We still kill that animal because there you only have a takala, you only have a downfall, and you don't have embarrassment. Says the Gemara, no, it's not a proof. Why not? Look, safe at the column, safe at the column. The end of the Mishnah has both. You're right. Takala the column, downfall and embarrassment. Reisha, the first part, is teaching you the following: Hakamash Malan, the afilu kolon below takala nami mechayvi. It's teaching you that even if you have embarrassment without a downfall, we still kill the animal. What's the case of you having relations with the animal, which is embarrassing, but there's no downfall? What's that case? Vehechi dami Yisrael haba'al behema the shogeg. A person, he didn't know it was prohibited to be with an animal. So, and he had relations with an animal, he never knew. So that person did it b'shogeg, he did it inadvertently. So there, it didn't bring upon his downfall because we don't kill him, but it's still embarrassing, and we still kill the animal. We still kill the animal because at the end of the day, people are going to know that this guy had relations with the animal. And this is like Rav Hamnuna's question. What's with a Jew that has relations with an animal inadvertently? What's the halacha? Do you have to have both in downfall and embarrassment? And here you only have one of them. And therefore you don't kill the animal. As long as you have embarrassment without any downfall, you still kill the animal. So that we're trying to prove from our Mishnah was actually a question that was posed by Rav Hamnuna. He had two understandings. Do you need both or do you need one? The difference would be a Jew that has relations with an animal inadvertently. You don't have a downfall, but you have an embarrassment. Amar Rabbi Yosef Tashma Bas Shalosh Shana B'Yom Echad. Gives me a whole long brisa. Okay, we'll try. Let's see. Okay, a lot of halachas by a 3-year-old girl. Bas Shalosh Shana B'Yom Echad Miskedesh L'Bia. She could get married through having relations. Being Ba'al Yavam Kana, if the husband died and now the Yavam falls to her. If she got married and then the guy died and she has Bia with the Yavam, or he has Bia with her, he has relations with her, he acquires her. She's married at 3 years old and the husband cheats on her or someone else has relations with her. So you're obligated for Eish. You cannot have relations if she's considered fully married. She makes, if she becomes a nida, so she makes her husband a very high level of tumah, that now if he has 10 mattresses under him, the first one is tameh, the one that he's lying on, and the last one is tameh also. If nises the kohen ochelas b'truma, if she's married to a kohen, she could eat b'truma. If she has relations with somebody who she's not allowed to because she's who's a bas Kohen, then she's going to be prohibited from all the statuses of kahuna. And if one of the illicit people that she can't have relations with has relations with her, we're going to kill them on her behalf. And she is not obligated because she's only 3 years old, and we're going to have to continue from here tomorrow.